I don't think. Oh, now we're live. There we are. We're live. Wait a second. Let people filter in. Why don't you welcome Pete? We should get a warm-up guy, like at a late night show. Like
those guys are the worst. Oh my god.
Well,
I mean, it's a terrible job for them.
Yes,
like
that's what I was going to say.
It's awful, and they do their best, but truly some of the least funny people that Hollywood can find.
I remember one episode. What was the Pete Holmes show that was on HBO? 2 seasons with Artie Lang, whatever it was. One of the episodes is he gets, that's the job that he gets, and it does seem. It seems like it probably pays well, but it does seem awful.
Maybe. I feel like the kind of thing where, like, in the 90s, those guys were like legends.
Right.
It's just their time has passed.
You want to start the show?
Yeah, we can start the show.
Let's start the show. We're going to start the show. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook. Use promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Cornblau and Cornblau, the official law firm of The Process, LL Povorski Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. BodyBio, get 20% off Calm, Elite, anything else you want at bodybio.com, and Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers are 13 wins away from an NBA title. They beat the barely NBA Wizards. We also talk about the rest of the playoffs. The Celtics get one from the Nets. Clippers not quite dead. And stupidly locked in Jimmy Butler gets swept in the first round. Before we get going, Kinetic Skateboarding. You see this hoodie I'm wearing? It's great. It's Kinetic hoodie. I actually don't think the logo was pink when I first got it, but I think I washed it with something red, and now it looks pink, but I love it. I have so much Kinetic gear. Kids think I'm a poser. It doesn't matter because the gear is good. Get yourself some Kinetic stuff. And if you're a skateboarder, that's great too. But the clothes is what I like them for. 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver at kineticskateboarding.com. And those shorts are completely sold out, by the way. So
speaking of 9.1, I do have to wish a happy 3-year anniversary to Sixers Adam for busting 9-1 herself.
Oh, we got to talk about that during the pod then. I think we have to actually, I didn't know that it was 3-year anniversary. And another thing, this is a serious thing. I got an email from a friend of this gentleman. So a Ricky listener named Todd, his son is Bo. Bo is 3 years old. And when Bo was 1, Bo was diagnosed with brain cancer. They fought it off, but now at 3 years old, the doctors have told them that it is back and it is incurable. So there is a GoFundMe so Todd and Ryan are Bo's parents. Here's the pictures of Bo if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter right now. Cute Bo wearing Sixers stuff. They have a GoFundMe to make Bo's time that he has left just awesome. Trip to Disney World, all kinds of stuff, and just make sure his family's able to do that for him. This is obviously a terrible situation, but this is when the community we have can sort of band together. So the GoFundMe, if you're watching live right now, is on my Twitter. If you just scroll down, it's on the Ricky Twitter too. And if you're listening to the podcast, it will be in the description of the podcast. And I think we can all band together and make sure that Bo and his family, his parents, Todd and Ryan, can make the best out of this. So we send our love to that family, and we ask the Ricky family for help. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here.
Say the name. I say the name. I say the name.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rice and Ricky Sanchez podcast, live on YouTube and Twitter. I am Spike Eskin, along with a guy who got to the gym at 3 a.m. today. That is Mike Levin.
Just a really nice, easy, very simple, deeply normal series so far. I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying a sport in Philadelphia. That's what it just took care of business. Beat them in all four quarters, just like everything they're supposed to do. What a nice thing.
You remember when the Sixers sucked and like winning the second half or something would be a thing? Like you'd look at it, you go, we scored more points than the second half. So winning every quarter, I think you should get bonus points for that. I think winning all four quarters.
Yeah. Well, so many moral victories. We could find them in anything during those days. And now it's just regular playoff victories.
So if you want to ask questions, we'll get to them later. You can do it on YouTube. Leave it right there in the comments. Like them. And CJ will explain later. I wanted to be able to, you can donate on YouTube with like this sticker or some bullshit. I don't know how it works, but CJ will explain that later. But if you have questions, leave them there or on Twitter and we'll get to them later. If you're listening to the pod afterwards, you can't do that. So the big surprise for me is that the Wizards start Davis Bertans instead of Raul Neto, and it doesn't seem to help.
Didn't work.
No.
Look, I respect them for saving their big guns, always have like an ace in the hole. You want to have something, don't show all your cards at once. And they played the Davis Bertans card. They played the bring Raul Neto off the bench card. Mm-hmm. And it didn't work.
No.
Maybe there's a couple more cards under Scotty Brooks's vest.
They're the worst. I mean, I don't remember all the bad playoff teams I've seen. They're certainly maybe the worst defensive team I've seen all year. Yeah. I mean, they look like they've never played together. I just on both sides of the ball. I mean, I can't get over how fucking bad they are. They make every player on the Sixers, aside from Shake Milton, they make every player on the Sixers look like amazing. We have a lot of good players, but I mean, they're just fucking terrible. And mid third quarter, they were just done. They were over it.
Yeah, you could see it really take the air out of them. It's like at the same time, all of their players were just like, fuck this, man. Just like, God damn it, this blows. You could really see it in their eyes. Mm-hmm. And that's not a recipe for winning for them. No. The starters and the Sixers they were incredible. They look like the best unit in the league. They just demolished every time they were out there. Everybody was basically a plus 30 in like high 20s minutes. And they didn't need to play as many minutes they did just to be like, well, we got to stay fresh a little bit. We can't just bench everybody for the second half. It's dope. And they're 3-0 for the first time. They're 3-0 in a series for the first time since 1985, which was before I was born. And when Alyssa heard that stat, she looked at me like I was an alien and goes like, I don't know what that's like. I don't know. How can you not?
Oh my God. They didn't make the playoffs for like 8 years. She acts like the fucking Lakers. Like she was there with Magic and James Worthy. Like, what are we talking about?
They were good for a long time. They've been good for a very long time. And she is absolutely spoiled by it and genuinely doesn't understand how teams people are fans of other teams that are not as good. But here we are, and we are as good, and it's good, and I like it. I'm enjoying myself. So them deciding not to double Embiid. You were talking about the Wizards and their choices, but them deciding this game, you're like, we're just not going to double him. That's the switch, is because if we double him, it like gives him even more power to determine, and he just broke guys down so easily. It was an odd choice, but I guess there's no good choices. Like when you have many worse players than the team you're trying to beat, what are you going to do?
So it seemed to me like they almost took. It was like a posse cut. It was like hit 'em up or something, where everybody on the track takes turns going off for a verse. So first it starts off with Curry. Like Curry, it was sort of like Curry and Ben, it seemed like in the beginning, started off hot. And then it moved over to Danny Green. And all of a sudden, Danny Green has 15 points in the first half. And while that's happening, it sort of shifts over to Embiid, who in the second and third was just fucking amazing. Winds up with 36 points on 18 shots or something like that. It did seem like every starter had a moment during the game where they were just beating the shit out of the Wizards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was really nice. I think Seth sort of set the tone. I'm glad that he's healthy. First of all, the ankle injury looked scary. And so the fact that he played is good. If anybody aggravated anything, Matisse left the game a little early with like a shoulder or an elbow thing. Please take the game 4 off. Let's not push it. We got plenty of time. Nobody hurt themselves further. But yeah, I thought Seth set the tone. I mean, he's just good, man. And his shot opens up so many nice passing lanes for him. And I think he might be the second best passer on the team behind Simmons. I just really love when he gets going. And it's just when he's on, he can create for himself. He can create for others. And Ben can kind of just turn into a screener and roll and get easy looks that way. And Joel can just kind of watch and smile. One of the big things about Joel is he's always being like, I wish we had more shooting so that they can keep shooting. The good shooters can shoot. He's always like encouraging Korkmaz to shoot, always encouraging like JJ and Covington, everybody just like get those shots up because he believes in the good shooters hitting shots. And so when he doesn't have to do everything, and he had a casual playoff high in a very almost sleepwalking few minutes most of the time, and everybody else can just like get theirs. It's just such an easy, pleasant experience. And I think Seth really started it off, and he had a great game.
The Andrew Sharp texted me, and he said he saw at least 12 Rights to Ricky Sanchez shirts. It reminded him of Bust the Process, and it was a fitting end to the season. I did make the offer. If anyone goes to game 4, wears their Fuck Andrew Sharp t-shirt from Bust the Process, takes a picture at game 4, I will reward you with a Ricky shirt. I would like to do that. By the way, people are donating. All right. So I don't know how this works, but if you can donate to us, we will donate that to Providence Animal Center Encoded by Kids. So we had somebody ask a question for $5 and somebody ask a question for $1.99. So we'll get to this one from Gabe, only because I think it's really important, actually maybe more important than anything that happened during the game.
Yeah.
Gabe asks, how do you feel about Ala Abdel-Nabi saying the best ability is availability for Bradley Beal on the broadcast? Obviously, this is big for you, Mike. What do you have to say?
I mean, it's brutal. I got a lot of people that sent that to me. I'm watching the ESPN broadcast because I'm in LA, and it's so that's tough to take because I like Ala. I enjoy him even with his little jokes. I enjoy him, but this is a bridge too far, and I think that
is he banned?
I don't know that I can. I've put so much of my reputation on the line behind this awful phrase that people insist on saying because it kind of rhymes. So probably I don't want to ban him. I want him to apologize. I want him to apologize and say like, it's not, I was wrong. I made an error.
Is this cancel culture? Is this cancel culture? Is that what this?
No, it's a stupid phrase. It's just a really dumb thing to say, and no one believes it. No one thinks that Brad Beal's best ability is that he's around. No one thinks that. No one. He's a great player. He does so many things well. It's really impressive. And you wouldn't say the fact that he shows up is his best ability.
No.
And I just think he owes me an apology. He owes the listeners an apology, and he owes Bradley Beal an apology.
And if he doesn't,
I don't want to live in a world where we have to ban Allah. I don't want to. I want him to see the error of his ways.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm trying to. We're now in the third game of this. Every game has basically been a different version of the same thing. We had talked about the Sixers not really like sort of sleepwalking through the last 3 weeks of the season because of their competitors, that the teams either weren't playing anyone or so on and so forth. And then they get to this first round playoff series, which, to be quite honest with you, and maybe it's because it's going so well, but I think it's partly because the Wizards are so bad. It doesn't even feel like the playoffs. Do you worry that they'll go through the first 2 rounds along with the last month of the season and not really be tested, and all of a sudden they end up in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bucks or the Nets, and like they get just sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like blindsided by real basketball.
No, not at all. No, I mean, I think you can look at the downside of any situation. I mean, would you rather have a tougher road and be forced to like play more games and play Embiid more minutes, and maybe somebody turns an ankle or a knee or something weird, and then that's concerning? Like, no, there's always the possibility of something bad happening. There's always the possibility of, whoever comes out of the Nets Bucks series having a lot of momentum. But how much is momentum really real? I'd prefer just to be there and be healthy and not get eliminated by some fluky thing. I just want to get there. I just don't. Yeah, I don't care.
You don't think so? You don't?
No.
Okay. The Rice to Ricky Sanchez is brought to you by Cornblau and Cornblau, the official law firm of The Process. I'm just going to read this email we got from a listener. Just wanted to let you guys know what an unbelievable job Adam did in my personal injury case. This past year, I was exclusively biking to work in all types of weather to avoid public transportation in an effort to keep my loved ones safe from COVID-19. I was trying to do the right thing, working really long hours in a mask and not going anywhere or seeing anyone. Without going into too much detail, I was injured in a bike accident that wasn't my fault. I went to the emergency room. I had follow-up appointments, but even through my injury that prevented me from biking to work for several months, I intended to put the whole incident behind me. However, I received some medical bills related to the accident despite having insurance, and I was really angry. I felt like it was adding insult to injury, not only because I had been injured trying to do the right thing, I owed almost $1,000, which was not going to be easy to afford. That's when I remembered Adam Cornblau and how to spell the first half of his name. Luckily, I had documented pictures and text messages related to the accident. I sent Adam an email expressing my frustration, asking if there's anything he could do. He called me back that same night and saying, not only do I have a case, but that this case would probably settle for over $10,000. In the end, Adam won me a $20,000 settlement. I worked directly with him. He explained it every step of the way, and he seriously took my account with comfort with the case and the negotiating process. I've never been a litigious person, but I think there are probably a lot of people out there who feel screwed sometimes when they're trying to do the right thing and to make sacrifices. Like, no good deed goes unpunished. So while it would be great to put this money away from my wedding, I also just feel retweet Armageddon levels of vindication with the recognition that something wrong had been done to me, and Adam helped make it right. So
Fuck
there
him
you
up,
go.
Adam.
Fucked him up. Cornblau and Cornblau, give him a call, shoot him an email. It doesn't cost you anything. 215-576-7200. Ask for Adam, or email cornblau@cornblau.com. Cornblau and Cornblau, the official law firm of The Process. Go ahead.
I have plenty. I got plenty. Right. I don't think that it's game 3 and they've won easily that I don't have plenty, because I do.
Well, you always have plenty.
Come on, it's playoffs. I show up. I just want to. Embiid was just so good, and
you flip the switch. You're a flip switcher.
I absolutely. There was one play early on where Ben gets a rebound off a free throw and has a hit ahead pass to Embiid, who had like established early post position on Dan Gafford. Mm-hmm. And Gafford's a big guy. He's not huge for a center, but like Embiid just ate him up, just he like did. Absolutely put him on his ass and just little brothered him like into the hallway closet when you're like playing on like a mini hoop.
He doesn't look like he should be too small. Like,
no,
when you look at Gafford, he doesn't look like he should be too small.
No, and just Joel's just too big. He's too strong. He's too smart. And Embiid he's in great shape. He's running the floor. I loved the sort of the shot diet that he had over the course of the game. It feels like he had 3 threes in back-to-back games. He's getting inside. He's getting to the line. He's having little step backs. He had a couple like step back spins off a double team. Like he's finding open guys in the corner. Really nice pass to Danny in the corner one time. And then he had obviously the missed dunk off the back rim, and then a clean one 2 plays later, which was nice and vindicating. It's just he was just been great. He's been absolutely excellent. He hasn't had to play that many minutes in 3 games with a a week of rest before that and like a couple days of rest before that. It's just like he is healthy and good to go and ready. And I just want to say, like, he started playing basketball like 10 years ago, and he's so savvy all the time and so smart. And even like the junky, like Trae Young, James Harden stuff he gets, and I love it. And I love him for it. Like, he drew a foul on Alex Len 70 feet from the basket with 0.8 seconds left in I think the half or the quarter, I forget. And he's just everything. He really is absolutely everything. When he shoots from the outside, he opens the floor for Simmons and makes it so much easier for him. I love him so much. I would do absolutely anything for him. He is like if Iverson went into sort of like I was going to say getting bit by a spider, but it's more than that. Like, went into some like time traveling machine and things went wrong, but things went wrong in like a positive way. Like, his just body got inflated and his personality got even more enhanced, and he had all the skills that he ever could want. It's just, he is exactly the perfect superstar for this city. He's the best player in the league. I really love him so much and want him to win a championship. And I feel like he can. And that's just extremely good.
Well, it's certainly not bad. How do you feel? You know what? Somebody actually asked in the comments. Where is it? This comes from Andrew Sammons. He said Knicks-Hawks play Game 5 and donated $5. Thanks. If you donate, it'll go to Providence Animal Center and Coded by Kids. Knicks-Hawks play, because you mentioned Embiid had a week off. Knicks-Hawks play Game 5 on Wednesday, Game 7 on Sunday. If the Sixers sweep, what are some pros and cons to having 4 to 7 full days off?
I just think it's all pros. I really do. I mean, I just think like there's a bunch of guys in this team that are young and hungry, and there's guys in this team that have been here before, and Doc has been here before. No one's going to be surprised by the idea that they're going to be off for a while.
Right.
It's not going to be like, what do we do? How do we keep them fresh? Like, there's Sam Cassell, there's Doc, there's Yeager, there's Dan Burke. Like, the coaching staff knows, like, everybody, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, they've all been in these situations before. Being healthy and advancing to the next round and letting your opponent like pummel themselves is great. Like, I just think it's all good. Like, and does that mean there's going to be like a rusty first stretch of a quarter? Probably at some point. I mean, the game 1 of this series was closer than games 2 and 3, but
they will
just
get to
think, like,
practice, by the way, which I think is good too. It was a season with very little practice as well. So,
and like, they didn't clean up. I think actually tonight they did a good job. I didn't look at the numbers on it, but first 2 games I don't think they did a good job in transition defense, which was the biggest weak spot. I think tonight, just eye test wise, I think they did. But going against, preparing for Trae Young, who's an exceptional offensive player, or the physicality of the Knicks, which is and good defense on the Knicks, which is a factor. But they should beat either team, and so it's just about advancing. I'm just not going to get into the mindset of like, oh no, they swept the Wizards, like something. This is bad for some reason. It's just like, keep pummeling teams. Like, let's just keep it moving.
So what else do you got? You said you had a whole list.
I have a whole list. I thought it was a great Ben game. I thought Ben was excellent. I thought, they love getting him aggressive early. He had like 6 quick points before the first time out. He had the nice little swooping little lefty hook around Robin Lopez, which you don't normally see that out of him. He loves going over the left shoulder with the right hand. Had a nice touch, an unusually nice touch. It was actually, the touch on his lefty hook was so nice that it made me feel like nicer than his right hand. That was a rare point in the favor of like, he is actually left-handed.
He's not.
But I like the touch. That was good. Getting a little like softly off the rim. And yet I think he did pretty good defense on Brad Beal, although they got him into switches a lot, and I would like him to try to not switch as easily. Just a really nice game from Simmons, but still has not made a free throw.
And it's not like he hasn't shot them. He shot free throws. He shot 9.
He was over 3 tonight, and so he's now 0 for 9 from the line. And that is
not great.
I would say definitely not great. I would say on the scale of like weird and alarming, it's more weird than alarming to me, but it's both. It's definitely both, but it's just having missed, I don't think he's missed 9 free throws in a row in his career. That's weird, but he's missing them all in the same way. He's just not, he seems like he's rushing. He's not getting under the ball like he did earlier in the season. There's not as much arc on it. But again, I mean, it's fixable. He should be like practicing them and starting to make some, but it's very bizarre and at least future alarming that we could be in a series against Milwaukee or Brooklyn, and then they can start to fuck with them and start hacking late. But yes, he should make free throws. But other than that, again, I thought it was an excellent game.
Yeah, I thought he played well too. Oh man, the free throw thing is just going to be, as soon as they lose a game, it's whether it's about him making his free throws at the end of the game or not. If they lose a game and he goes 0 for 4 from the free throw line or something, it's bubbling under. But I thought he played really well again too. I mean, this is the sort of team that he'll play well against when he is much bigger than anyone who's guarding him. And a particularly bad defensive team that he takes advantage of. But I thought he played well too. Even when the hooks go in, I just fucking hate them. I hate them. I just can't believe in my heart that they're good shots ever. I can't get my head wrapped around them. I don't believe in the hooks.
I think when it's too much, when he does it too often, I agree. But they defenses really respect his post ups in a way that they probably shouldn't. But when he gets a couple of them, it opens things up more, and guys will send help and stuff. And I think he can fake to that other shoulder and spin the other way. And I think he's finishing inside enough with enough dunks and nice like layups at the rim where I'm not upset about it. I think if it was too much, I agree with you, but I think it's a healthy diet of a mix is the right level. Tobias, I thought played really well. I find myself
standard Tobias game.
Such a standard. I find myself rarely having anything new to say about Tobias. Although I did think he passed pretty well tonight. He just does his job. He's just a guy this season who has, like, beginning to end, done his job. Just like an absolute professional scorer. Spot ups, pick and roll going left, pick and roll going right, getting all the way to the rim, little floaters, step backs, turnarounds, push shots. I mean, aside from like a contort his body type of finish or being like a full above the rim guy, unless he's got a real head of steam, that's really all he can't do as a scorer right now. There's just everything works for him. And it's not just easy looks. He is doing everything, exploiting mismatches, finding his spots, settling runs from the other team. He's been great. I have a tremendous amount of love from Tobias, and I cannot afford him to keep playing this well. It is costing me $10 million every game. Yeah.
I'm particularly glad to see him play well, especially because he looked iffy the last few weeks of the season with the knee. He definitely looked iffy, and he does not look iffy at all in this series. So you mentioned Thibault, not the greatest Thibault game, no. I would say. Maybe one of the worst in a while. Just one stat that got mentioned on TV that as he missed a free throw that I couldn't believe is that he only shot 18 free throws this year.
Yeah.
He plays like 20 minutes a game for a whole season.
Yeah.
How does he only shoot 18 free throws? It's fucking crazy.
Very few. And shot like 40% on him. Like, he wasn't good. He split
8 of 18
free throws. It was bad. He's the first sub on the bench, at least in the first half he was. And he comes in for Tobias so that Tobias can anchor the bench units. And I think that's pretty good. Although Doc did run a Ben Matisse Dwight lineup out there, and even though he continues to promise that he won't, I didn't think Matisse was that good. I think there was one moment that I think he cuts well, and I think he cuts off the ball, off the catch well. He had one play where he was like wide open underneath, and I think the Sixers' weakness is really, aside from Ben and I'd say occasionally Seth, guys are open underneath the basket. Usually it's Ben, and this time it was Matisse, and they just don't find him. They seem like Embiid's a little hesitant, or Danny's a little hesitant, whatever it is, or Tobias always. But Dwight made a really nice pass to find Matisse down low for an open dunk off the high post, which I thought was really nice. But yeah, Matisse wasn't that great. He didn't even have a steal or a block tonight, which is I can't imagine there's been many games that season where that happened, especially when he plays. At least he played 18 minutes tonight. The threes did not look good. But it's. I hope he's okay, and I would love to see like a 3 for 5 Matisse shooting night. Like, give me like a random. If this guy's hitting shots, then we're totally fucked tonight. But I don't mind him saving that for a more important series also. So let's not waste it here.
It was a good Curry game.
Yeah. I talked about Seth. I love Seth.
Yeah.
I have tremendous amount of love for Seth. I think he's an excellent addition to this team and continues to make Daryl look really smart. It was a great look. Let's talk about it. Danny Green has been just locked in from deep for like 3 months.
You doubted him. You said you
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. He hits 5 threes in the first half.
You're gonna do it. You doubted him.
And then takes a beautiful pull-up 30-footer heat check that barely hit backboard. And I just utmost respect for him doing that. And he does also, like, obviously people talk about his veteranness and how he's just like a pleasure to be around and stuff. But he also makes these little just like TJ plays here and there, like a steal off a backcourt pass, like a scoot in for an offensive rebound. He's like basically stole the tip and got us an extra possession there. And that's just like big in the playoffs, and it'll be big when it matters more. And they said on the ESPN broadcast that he's 12th all time and made threes in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he's going to pass Kobe for 10th by probably next series. And that's ridiculous. That's awesome. And I'm glad he's here, and I love him. He can't cover Bradley Beal, and Bradley Beal just gets so happy every time Danny's on him. But Danny being this confident and locked in from 3 is a huge addition to the team. He
knows where to be defensively. That's why he comes up with those steals. Like he never gambles wrong. That's it. It always seems like when he gambles, he gets the steal. Like he has a real great knack for being in the right place at the right time. And man, the threes that he gets in the corner, like he does find himself open a lot. And it's not because he's not respectable from there. It's not because he doesn't get guarded. I just think he's a really, really smart basketball player. And yeah. I actually, from the beginning, I wanted him to be good, and I did support him, but it definitely is not accidental that the guy started on 3 title teams. Yeah. Like that you can't, there's always somebody in the lineup that is a specialist, right? Like you do have specialists in the lineup. It's not an accident that he's on 3 title teams. It's not like luck. It's obviously not. He's not fucking LeBron or something, but it's not an accident that he's won a title starting on 3 separate NBA teams. That's all. So
yeah, I mean, he's been great, and he's been a huge addition. And I think he's really the sort of prototypical 3-and-D guy. Like for a long time, I think like when Shane Battier was playing, that term like kind of didn't exist. And so I think for the entirety of Danny Green's career, he's really like the absolute like prototype for that position. And then I love him. I would love to see him get a fourth ring with a different team. That would be
3
dope.
in a row, a three-peat with 3 different teams.
That'd be insane. That'd be really insane.
Fucking I'm so glad we didn't trade him. I'm so glad we didn't fucking trade him.
Yeah, it was always just weird. That was always like when the Kyle Lowry stuff was coming up. It was just like, would I trade Tyrese Maxey for Kyle Lowry this season? Yeah, I would have done it. But when it came to like to make the salaries work, you would have had to put in Danny. It's just like there's just too many negatives there. It's just like it ends up not really working out. And then Lowry was hurt for a lot of the end of the year anyway, so it really worked out. And Maxey has come on obviously incredibly strong, although I don't think he did that much tonight. I thought he was pretty fine. Although it is worth noting that Maxey got Shake's minutes. In that all bench lineup that Doc went with, I just worry about the shooting. Like Maxey is like has turned himself into a fine shooter. He's willing to do it, but I don't think he's really taken much lately, and it's just not a huge threat to the defense. And so when it's like Maxey, Thibault, Howard, and then it's just Korkmaz and Hill, and George Hill has a slow release, it's really just Korkmaz that's willing to let it fly. And so I'm a little bit worried about that, but Shake has been bad. Like he seems like rattled. He seems a little bit lost everywhere when the ball's in his hands or not in his hands. He gets called for offensive fouls on almost every one of his drives, it seems like. I agree with Mike O'Connor in that, like, I don't think it's permanent. I don't think this is who he is. But it's a tough time to be going through a cold stretch. And if you're Doc, how much rope do you give him to work his way out of this funk?
And the stretch has been going on for a while, by the way. I mean, this isn't like 3 weeks or something. It's been going on for a while.
Yeah, it's been a month or two for sure. And yeah, I thought the bench was pretty bad generally. The starters really carried everybody. I don't think that they should be doing, like, the starting lineup as a whole itself is so good that I get why Doc wants to play it, but you just don't need to play all bench lineups in series that matter. And I really worry about that. Like, they could obviously carry you and they could have a couple nice moments and they can get hot, but like, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. And it feels like with Doc so often it is.
Let me, we'll talk about the all bench lineups in a second, because I agree with you, and it's going to hurt them against better teams, but I have a question about that. The Rice Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by BodyBio. You see this, Mike? This is Calm. BodyBio is a local supplement company, family owned, family operated, makes all their own supplements. They're not slapping their label on some other company's thing. And the good thing is they can sort of adjust as science adjusts, which happens fast. Calm, it takes the edge off, right, Mike?
That's right.
Takes the edge off, lets you relax, lets you focus, but all natural shit. All natural. They use amino acids and adaptogens, only 5 active ingredients, and really take it whatever you want, up to 3 times a day. I do it before I go to work. Helps me focus because I get stressed out on my way to work. And the other time that I find it to be helpful is I usually get up in the middle of the night, and that's also when I get stressed out. And you can take it in the middle of the night, helps you get back to sleep. Do it when you go to bed, maybe when you get home from work, maybe when you're feeling particularly stressed out. Calm.
Close the door of your office. Smoke a cigarette at work and have some
calm.
Just take the edge off.
Take the edge off.
That's a normal thing to do here in 1958.
Use code RTRS20 for 20% off Calm or anything else. It's good for the playoffs. Fuck, man. I mean, it's easy now, but you're going to want a bottle for the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes.
RTRS20 at checkout at bodybio.com. Calm works in about 15 minutes. I'm telling you, I take it before pods. That's why it's right up here, right where we do the pod. Again, bodybio.com. That's code RTRS20. Okay. The all bench lineups. I'll take another one just to prove that it's okay. The all bench lineups. So I agree with you, but you still, like, normally what you do is you have somebody from the starters carrying those all bench lineups.
Tobias.
Yeah. But then what are you doing is it George Hill that's getting those minutes, like, right? Or is just Tobias playing, when Ben and Joel are playing 38 minutes, is Tobias just playing 43?
I'd mix it up. I mean, I think that
he hasn't done that all year though.
Tobias, he hasn't. So George Hill ran with the starters for a bit tonight. I think in the third quarter, and when he took Tobias out early, so Tobias could run with the bench. That was nice to just give George Hill a time with the starters because he just hasn't played with them that much. And I also think George did a pretty solid job on Beal. I thought he was actually better on Beal than Danny was, although that might have just coincided with when Bradley Beal had an existential crisis and stopped trying and kind of did like 1,000-yard stare into the crowd and almost disappeared from his body for a little bit. So maybe that was easier. But yeah, I think you would just mix it up. Like, I think any lineup with Ben and Joel out there is going to be good. And so I would let Seth and Danny and Tobias run with, Matisse and Dwight for a little bit, and let Korkmaz and Maxey and Shake or whoever come in with the starters with Ben and Joel, as long as because Ben and Joel lineups are going to be positive. There's just never a situation, especially in these early round matchups, that Ben and Joel lineups aren't positive. And so I would help the bench players a little bit more. So it's not like they have a few starter level players. They have they can run Seth pick and rolls, and that's something the defense has to really account for. And Korkmaz doesn't have to be the only shooter out there that's doing something. I think there's a mix that could happen. And again, I would love to see non-Dwight bench lineups.
It's just weird that he hasn't fucking done it all year, really. I mean, we've occasionally seen Tobias with the backups, but it just seems like this is what he's going to do.
Yeah. It's
right.
Weird. It's weird. I mean, I think the answer might be those lineups play 4 minutes in the first half, 4 minutes in the second half, and that's it. And it doesn't kill you, and it could, tread water while you're sitting Joel and Ben for their 8 minutes a game or so. But yeah, I mean, it's a concern. That's one of the few concerns. If you're looking at the playoffs so far and saying like, what can I be concerned about? It's Ben not hitting a free throw. It's Shake looking lost, and it's Doc being unwilling to tinker with all bench lineups with any success.
Do you have anything else before we get to questions?
I have to give some credit. Our
Scott.
friend and former Ricky and current Ricky contributor, Zainab Javed.
That was Mike Scott.
They're live in DC for 2 Mike Scott threes, and me being able to hear her on the ESPN broadcast shrieking her head off. I love it. I respect it. I'm wearing the Mike Scott headband now from Zainab. I'm happy for her. It's been a tough road for the Hive, and I'm glad that he could play get a little in there and do it for her.
I can't believe he's still on the team.
He really is, against all odds. He's gonna be the longest
odd.
tenured Sixer. He really is. At some point, it's just gonna be, how's he still here?
I guess he's gonna be our what's his fuck in Miami.
Udonis Haslem.
Yeah.
He's Udonis Haslem for sure. And then the bench, nobody else was really that.
No.
I thought Dwight was pretty bad. I think it was like he's really rattling up his elbows to people's chops plays, and they're gonna call him for that every time, even if he thinks about it. And but he got, he's Dwight. We know what we're getting from Dwight. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but he's gonna do the same thing.
Why don't we take some questions? We'll bring on producer CJ to ask us the questions. Again, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, you can comment now, ask the questions. If you're doing it on YouTube, you can actually donate when you ask the questions, and people are actually doing that, which is fucking unbelievable to me. But we're not keeping that money. That money will go to the Province Animal Center and coded by kids. So we're not. What are you laughing about, CJ?
I've never seen Mike get so close to the camera before.
Just checking out the bed situation, just making sure I'm seeing it accurately. Oh, that's nice. The bottom is better made than the top, but I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That's an early 20s guy made bed. Is what that is.
Very true, on brand. Yeah.
All right. What do we got?
So everyone that's donating, thank you. It lights up in my chat. I'm assuming everyone else's too, so it's easier to find. Eddie asked this about like 30 minutes ago. Will Jimmy bully Bam like he did with Cat?
Oh wow.
Can we hold that on to later, or do we want to do that now?
Let's just talk about it now. Let's. I think, man, Milwaukee really made it pretty undeniable that Miami was not ready for this, and that series could have easily been like a gentleman's sweep and look good, but to just take care of them in 4 and really just like suck the life out of them in game 4 earlier is really, I mean,
they beat them by an average of 20,
devastating
2 points a game.
Just crushed them, absolutely. And I think Jimmy loves Bam, and I think Bam is good. I think people should have to atone for thinking that Bam was on the same level as Embiid, because that's absurd. But something's going to happen there. Jimmy's not a guy that's going to take losing 4-0 lightly. It makes Heat culture look. I think Heat culture and like St. Louis Cardinals fandom is sort of in the same mode, like this like elitism from a fan base that is not like a part of it. Like if you're going to be like an obnoxious fan base, be like grimy and weird. Don't be like we are the most in shape. Like that just seems bizarre. And it clearly wasn't true. And what an embarrassing showing for the Miami Heat, who ruined my parlay with the Mavericks to not make me money.
Jimmy's going to do something about Bam's play. Well, maybe Jimmy should do something about the fact that of 203 players in the NBA who have played in the playoffs, he has the worst plus minus of all 203 players as a minus 21.5. Maybe Jimmy should score more than 13 points a game in the playoffs. Maybe Jimmy should shoot more than 35%. Maybe Jimmy should hit more than 4 fucking threes in an entire series. Maybe he should stop worrying about his fucking coffee and getting to practice at 3 a.m. Maybe he should stop worrying about making sure everybody knows how hard he works. The fact is that the guy is a fucking fraud, and he's always been a fucking fraud. and Heat culture is fraudulent, and Eric Spoelstra has never won 50 games without LeBron James. And that fucking finals run last year, we all know it's fraudulent. If I had said to anyone listening to this pod right now or watching right now, we're going to play the playoffs, but there's not going to be any home games or road games. There's not going to be any fans in the arena. Everyone's going to have 3 months off before the playoffs, and we're still going to call it the normal playoffs, and we're still going to have a regular final. We'd all say it's bullshit. It was a fluke. His performance was a fluke. It will never happen again, and no player who is going to win a fucking title as the best player on the team is going to get swept in the first round, scoring 13 points a game, shooting 30%. Never. Not in your prime. Not in your prime. He had everybody was there and everybody was healthy. And I was fooled, just like a lot of other people were fooled, that they were going to go into the playoffs and they were going to be scary and yada, yada, yada. I'm sure he's going to blame fucking everybody else on the team. Everybody else on the team. You can blame everybody else on the team if you're scoring 30 points a game or something. And he had a shitty triple-double to end the, is that what you call it? Oh, pathetic triple-double to end the playoffs. I think he had 14 or 12, 10, and 10. He's a fucking fraud. I'm glad he's not here. He's a fucking fraud.
Do you want to revisit your statement before the playoffs that Jimmy would not let the Heat lose to the Sixers?
He hates the Sixers. He hates Ben Simmons. I think very really that he would have played the Sixers in a very intense way. And I guess I would still have been terrified about playing the Miami Heat. Absolutely. And I do think that there's a chance that he would not have lost to the Sixers. Absolutely. But would you like to revisit your statement that Jimmy Butler, who just scored 13 points a game while getting swept in the first round, can be the primary offensive option on a title team?
I mean, I think he was like, it's not like this, your comments about the bubble. It's like, well, everybody was playing under those conditions. It's
I
not
know,
like
but they
only
weren't
Miami
real
was.
conditions.
Sure,
But they
it was
weren't
weird, and I think there's a possibility that it's like a fluky thing. But if LeBron had turned his ankle and was out for the rest of the series, and Miami won a championship last year, then it would have been like, well, yeah, he was. Sure, but I'll take a fluke championship. I would love a fluke championship. Is it a fluke championship if the Sixers don't have to play anybody until the conference finals?
But he didn't win a fluke. He didn't even win a fluke championship.
I know, but you're looking at the results too much, and it's just like he was.
That's how you get a
year.
championship, Mike. You win it. The result has to happen. That's
but
how.
What's the point of saying?
Work.
But then what's the point of saying anything if you could just be like, here are the list of champions that have won, and that's their championship players, and everyone who's not is not.
The
like,
point of saying
a Wikipedia list.
That's why there's a list. Those are the title winning teams. Those are the teams that won the title. That like if you are fine to say, I think it is fine for you to say, yes, I believe that Jimmy Butler could be the best player on a championship team. What I don't think it's fine to say is that Jimmy Butler has been the best player on a championship team because he hasn't won a championship as the best player. So until that happens, I believe that I'm right. And he hasn't. So that's it. That's it. If I'm going to revisit my my comment that I thought he would have beat the Sixers, who that is the best player on a championship team would get swept out of the first round scoring 13 points a game? Who?
Yeah, I mean, he played bad. Like he had a great season and then played really bad in the series. If he played better, they might have won. But I mean, it was the whole team sucked ass. Like Tyler Hero being a sticking point in James Harden trade looks really bad. You also wanted to trade Ben Simmons for Tyler Hero.
Didn't say that. Didn't say that.
Oh, I genuinely thought you did. That's
no. What I said was when they were talking about trades that Tyler Hero at $3 million a year had better value than Ben at $30 million a year.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Would you make that trade now?
Would I trade Ben Simmons for Tyler Hero?
Yeah, if the
Tyler Hero at $3 million a year, yes, I absolutely would.
Okay. Yeah. My always thing with your Jimmy thing was that it felt weird to me, and it still does, that you can think that he would have beaten the Sixers in the first round, but he's a fraud and not as good. It was just hard for legitimately not riling up.
I know you got tweets and text messages and stuff, but I think it's hard to believe that the best player on a title team could get swept in the first round scoring 13 points.
No, I agree. He played bad for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it was just an accident. It was the other guys on the team. the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, because the results don't really matter. It's just what you think could happen. That's the most important part. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by LL Povorski Jewelers, who I think is actually I think he's anti-Butler, very anti-Butler. You would have to check his gifts, his screenshots, and the 214 Rights to Ricky Sanchez customers that have purchased engagement rings from one LL Povorski, the very first sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast, not only has sold all those rings to all those Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners, but has also participated in every event we've ever done, gone on every trip we've ever gone on, has provided engagement rings for weddings that we've had at our events. All that, and he's a fantastic guy, a fantastic jeweler, and just a genuinely good person that you would want to spend a lot of money with. He has been in business at 707 Walnut for over 30 years. That means something. Appointment only. If you want to meet with Lee right now, just you and him, 215-627-2252. Email lee@llpovorski.com or tweet at him at llpovorski. Supports our charities like you're doing with your YouTube donations. Providence Animal Center and Coded by Kids. LL Povorski Jewelers
has never been swept out of the first round.
All right, CJ, more questions.
Earlier in the previous discussion, there was talk of meaningless triple doubles. So Daniel asks, are Westbrook's triple doubles the most overrated triple doubles in the history of the NBA?
I've never been like a triple double guy. The stats feel arbitrary. If it's 11 rebounds and 9 assists, is it worse objectively? But yeah, it's clearly a guy that does a lot of stat hunting, and it's unclear how much he contributes to winning at this point in his career. Although he did play well for the end of the season. I would say it's pretty close to as far on a list of overrated triple doubles go. I think he's definitely up there.
It's amazing too, because the triple doubles are they're not pathetic triple doubles in general. They're 26, 12, and 30. But when you watch them, you don't even know how they happen. And in the NBA now, I would say that the triple double in general, if you're going to consider it valuable in general, it's devalued because it just seems to happen a whole lot more because of the way that the game has gone. Honestly, I watch him during the series. I don't even know how he did that for the Wizards the last 25 games of the year. He looks literally fucking terrible, like a terrible basketball player.
Yeah. I mean, the Sixers are a very good defensive team. And so, especially for a guy that doesn't shoot well, although he hit a couple threes tonight, it's really hard to score against the Sixers when you're not capable of coming off a screen and rising up the way Brad Beal does, or the way that Damian Lillard would, or anything like that. So it's a tough matchup for him, but yeah, I mean, they're making him look really, really bad.
What do you got next?
Let's go to Uncle Geeb, who asks, how pivotal...
Uncle Geeb. He's a regular on the YouTube.
Regular viewer, for sure. How pivotal is Tobias's 20 and 10 stat clip for the success of the team moving forward in the playoffs? Can they win without it?
No.
I mean, he's been great, and they definitely count on him. He's the most matchup proof, kind of defense proof, get you a bucket guy on the team. Teams with length and intelligent defenders can scheme their way out of Joel having the ball, and they can prevent him from doing his thing a lot. I mean, less so than in previous years. Joel's too good to be totally taken out of the game, but I think Tobias, no one's ever going to double Tobias because there's too many other weapons. And so he just needs to be a guy that can get you, settle down buckets and hit shots and space the floor and everything. So they definitely need him. And he's just an above average player in every facet of the game right now. And he needs to keep doing that to get to the finals.
And there's going to be a couple of games, a few games through the playoffs. That 37 game he had, they're going to need a few more of those. I just think that they are. I think that their lack of sort of perimeter guys in terms of scorers, it can't be Embiid every single game. It won't be. And there will be games where there's going to have to. Yeah, and it hasn't been. And there will be it's like I said, Tobias had a 37 game. I just think he's going to need a few more of those through the playoffs if they're going to get to the finals. So the 10 not so much as the 20, and the 20 is fine. You look at his stats last year and this year, he's averaging in the regular season, it was the same points on like I think 1.3 less shots per game. So 20 points can look all different sorts of ways, but I do think he's going to need like a big game in each series for them to get to the finals, a really big game in each series. What do we got next?
Yeah, so we talked about the Heat. Nick wants to know about the Bucks. He says, Spike, have your thoughts on the Bucks being frauds changed? Also, would you guys ever consider commentating over a game live? I would love that.
So the commentating over a game live is tough because of everybody's watching on a different delay. So it would be fun to do at some point, but Mike and I would be seeing things at different times, and then the people watching would be seeing it at different times. So it wouldn't be quite as fun as you think. We don't really have the technology to do it the right way. Have my thoughts on the Bucks being frauds changed? Not really. And I thought about changing it as they swept the Heat. But then when Dante DiVincenzo got hurt, and I was like, oh no, they're really going to miss Dante DiVincenzo. That sentence coming out of my mouth, though I think he's a good player, means that they must be frauds. And they said that they were going to start Jeff Teague. Like if your starter goes out and you're like, let's go with Jeff Teague, I think you're probably frauds.
They started Connaughton.
They had talked about Teague, is my point. They talked about starting Teague to keep Connaughton and Bryn Forbes like as part of that bench unit. So I don't know. Like if you have to talk about starting Jeff Teague, that sounds fraudulent to me. But their defense is legit, and I think they would be a tough matchup for the Sixers. I'm still not buying them as champs.
Yeah. Losing DiVincenzo hurts. He's a good player. And gives them a lot of just like athleticism pop that they kind of don't really have that much. Mm-hmm. And so they'll miss him especially in next series for sure. I didn't expect that they would sweep Miami. No, they look really good.
Yeah. And they needed that, I think, by the way. I think they needed to face Miami and sweep them after last.
Yeah. And then game one was close and then blew them out in game two. And it's like, okay, let's see what they do in Miami. And then to just absolutely roll them in game three and not to be that close in game four either. It's just like, that was decisive. And they look good. Brook Lopez is good and really anchors their defense nicely. So Giannis can sort of just like roam a little bit and use his length to bother people. I thought Giannis has been more patient with the ball in his hands this series. Drew's the man. Chris Middleton's the man. They're a good team. I think Bryn Forbes is having his Fred VanVleet moment, and I wonder how long it's going to last. He's a good player. He's always been a good shooter at Michigan State. A couple summer leagues ago, he stared at me in the bench of a summer league game. Just sort of looked at me and was like mean mugging to me. And so that was interesting. I think about that all the time.
Where were you sitting? I don't understand.
Well, summer leagues, you can sit wherever. So I was like sitting like 4 rows up or something like that. And I sit next to Patrick, my writing partner, who's been on the pod before. Mm-hmm. And he just like was in a huddle and like kind of looked up and just like looked at us and was just sort of like just like mean mugging and like kind of like looking cool or intimidating. I don't really know what it was, but it was like, okay, yeah, all right, Bryn Forbes. And so I think about that all the time, and now you guys will too. But I think he's short and not a good defender and can get played off the floor that way. So if he's not hitting threes at a ridiculous rate, he could be a negative. But they're a good team. They're a really good team.
Drew's great. Did you mention Drew? Drew's great.
Yeah,
Drew's great.
He is. And I would like to see sort of a reality, like a dual reality where like Sixers and almost like a round robin. Could they have just done like a round robin, like a best of 5 round robin between like all 3 contenders in the East, so we could just see what would have happened? Because it's going to be interesting. I don't think that necessarily the best team between Milwaukee and Brooklyn has the best shot at beating the Sixers. I think it really is. I think those 3 teams are really, really good, and they have very different strengths. Milwaukee is kind of like the hybrid between the Sixers and the Nets, and that they're also a really good defensive team and offensive team, and can get out and run and play different styles. I'm excited to see that series. That's a series I'm just really looking forward to. Who do you feel more comfortable playing, Spike? Who do you feel like the Sixers have a better chance at?
Man, it's tough.
Or do you think the Sixers are not as? Because I just get the feeling the past maybe like month or so that you don't think the Sixers are going to beat either of those teams.
I think they could beat either of them, but I wouldn't pick them to beat either of them. Is that fair?
Either of them?
No. I would pick the Bucks over the Sixers, and I would pick the Nets over the Sixers. I think if I'm talking about percentages, I would lean Nets like. And remember too, this is an important point. Whoever they will face would have beaten the other team. So like that would go toward the legitimacy of that team. Does that make sense? Like if the Nets are in the Eastern,
they will
Conference
have proven
Finals,
themselves,
right? So I would be like, in that case, I would be like 80-20 Nets, and I would probably be 60-40 Bucks in that case if they played either one of those teams. So I think they have a better chance against the Bucks because I just think that the Bucks have fewer great players. And like I can't get through my head, and I know this isn't exactly how basketball always works, that our second offensive option in the half court is like Tobias, and theirs is like James Harden, and then their third is Kyrie Irving. It's hard to wrap my head around. And they do have a lot of guys, and we've talked about that. Like Joe Harris is a real player, Bruce Brown's a real player, Blake Griffin's a real player. They have 8 or 9 real players in addition, and 3 of those are 2 of them are 2 of the 5 best players in the NBA. And it's just like I have a hard time wrapping my head around the Sixers scoring enough points to beat them.
I did like seeing our Celtics push them to another game. I have to ask, sorry, before CJ jumps in, if Milwaukee is still frauds, but you'd pick them over the Sixers, are the Sixers frauds?
Well, I don't think the Sixers are like a championship level, like a win the title level team. But I don't think the difference is that the Nets have been. I don't think I think like the odds for the Sixers reflect accurately who the Sixers are. Like the Sixers didn't go into the playoffs as the favorites to win the East. They're not even the second favorites to win the East at this point. The Bucks are. So, but the Bucks for the last 2 years have been favorites to get out of the East. So they are fraudulent because they were portending to be something they were not. I think the Sixers' odds are actually like pretty accurate. Not impossible, but not likely. And I think the Bucks are better. I think the Bucks are better with Drew Holiday than what they've had before. He does add something that they've never had before.
Would you think the Sixers were frauds if you weren't moving to New York?
Would I think? Wait a minute. Wouldn't I think the Sixers are frauds now? Because
I think you do think they're frauds. You don't think that they're a championship level team. You think
but I've always
thought
that. Yeah, I've always.
But you talk about like with gusto, talk about that the Bucks are frauds and have in the past and are lessening that now after an impressive win. But you seem to not want to talk about your true feelings about the Sixers. You enjoy Embiid. You think Tobias having a nice season. You love Danny. There's a couple of things.
I don't know if you want to do this like live on the pod. Like, do you want me to go through every single opinion you've ever had and like grill you?
I just think like
are
I
people
want to know.
You?
I was thinking about it
somebody
earlier.
in your DMs. I know you have open DMs. You getting DMs about it? You want to make sure you give me a hard time on everything that I say? Because we can go through all your picks. Is Michael Porter Jr. good yet? Like, is Brandon Ingram good yet? I don't know. We can go through all of them.
I really am not trying to like get your goat. I want to know what you feel about the Sixers. It's a Sixers podcast. I want to know,
but I've talked about my like I'm obvious about my thoughts on the Sixers. I say it all the time, but I don't want to get on the podcast after every win and go, well, they did beat the Wizards, but I think they're going to lose to the Nets. Like what fun is that? It's
I just didn't think we did a full. I felt like I talked a lot about my positivity about the team. And I don't know that we did a full like where Spike is at with the Sixers prior to the playoffs. And I honestly believe that. And so I wasn't sure that was clear. And so I was thinking about it earlier today. I was like watching the Sixers succeed and thinking about them going like if they're up 3-0 versus 2-1, which is obviously a huge difference in a series, even against a bad team. You just want to put them away. And I was like, I think Spike doesn't think that they're good or good enough. And I wanted to establish that on the podcast.
I think that they are good, but not good enough. I think the regular season in the NBA this year more than, but I guess it's been a lot over the last few years that teams have been able to sort of, the Bucks having been one of them, but this year the Jazz, the Suns, and the Sixers. There have been a lot of teams this year that have been particularly good during the regular season that almost nobody really considers top line title threats. Like nobody really thinks the Suns are going to win the title. No one really thinks the Jazz are going to win the title. And I don't think that there are a lot of people that really think, aside from fans of each one of those teams, that those teams are going to win the title. I think that the Sixers are still missing the same thing that I've been saying for like 2 years now, is that someone's got to be able to dribble and score at the end of the game, and they don't have it. And I just think they're going to have such trouble. They're out threeing the Wizards because the Wizards are fucking terrible. But you get it. It really just a lot of times comes down to, are you making enough threes to keep up with the other team? And the Sixers, I don't think will. And I also don't think have enough like offensive creation outside of Embiid to score with the teams that they're going to need to score with. And I think when they go up against a good defensive team, we're going to see like the everything's fun now, but when they go up against a team like that, we're going to see that thing that happened with the Heat. Obviously it was one game, but it was a competent defensive team that competed against them, that knew what to do. And they're going to eventually face that. And I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that because of the draw that they have, that because they don't have to play against, this is me farting, not a fire truck. Because they won't have to play against Milwaukee or Brooklyn. I do think that staying healthy and staying generally refreshed, especially at this point in a long season where everybody has like so many bumps and bruises and like tweaked backs and weird little knee things, and everybody's questionable to play. Having those breaks and having the time off and not having to play 43 minutes in a playoff game is huge for them. And I would pick the Sixers over either Milwaukee or Brooklyn, partially because of the draw. And because I do think that Embiid is just on another level of unstoppability that neither team can handle. I think Brook Lopez is the only one that kind of could. And I think Embiid's just going to get him in foul trouble quickly and make it hard on them. And I think Milwaukee doesn't quite have enough players without DiVincenzo to make it happen. I don't think Brooklyn has enough defensive players to stick with everybody. And I'm not saying it's not a stone cold lock, but I just feel the draw has worked out for the Sixers' favor. Embiid is playing at the best level of his career and healthy, and same with Tobias. And I think they're just a really, really good team. And I think that, do they have that guy, that like point guard that's going to break everybody down off the dribble and just get to the rim and everybody spreads out? No, but I think the Sixers have found a way to like muck it up on both ends, and they don't let other teams get away with that either. It's not like they just don't give easily to those kinds of players. And so I think it's going to be a really good series, whoever comes out of that. I'm not counting out anything weird happening with Atlanta or New York, because they're the Sixers, so anything can happen. But I feel really, really good about the way the team is constructed and the way they look right now.
I agree with you that they don't give it. It's just that teams that are like that usually don't prevail. Like they usually don't win titles, like out defensing the other team. It just gets to a point where somebody needs to score points. So we'll see. Again, I think they could beat the Nets, and I think they could beat the Bucks. I just wouldn't pick them in either. And I think the Bucks is closer to a coin flip than the Nets are. But if one of those teams will beat the other team, and I think that will inform how we feel about both of those teams. Several people have asked, and I think Varsha Lolabatu paid to ask.
Yeah, we're just going to get there.
Okay.
Matthew,
all right.
Hope that answered your question about the Nets losing to the Celtics. Varsha asked who won the Danny Award of the game tonight, and a lot of people were trying to
People are begging for it.
People are begging to get it answered.
I think you have to give it to Danny, who played a great game, but taking a pull-up 30-footer and barely grazing backboard, I think he's the namesake for the award, and he deserves to get it. He's earned the right to get that award. And it's more delightful to give it to somebody who played a good game and did one weird thing, rather than Shake, who played like shit and did a couple weird things. You know what I mean?
He should award it. just sort of like they have Bill Russell like there, to give award. Like they should at the end, and just like the Sixers, ringing the bell and the fucking the medallion thing. Danny at the end of the game should have a golden diaper that he hands to one of the Sixers.
Yeah, there's like a golden diaper that he either hands it to himself or like passes it to somebody in the crowd by accident. Like he throws it at a ref or something. It's like, oh, that's the Danny presentation.
We didn't. I don't think much of the Celtics beating just to quick wrap up the rest of the playoffs. I don't think much of the Celtics taking the one game from the Nets. If it goes 2-2, that's something. Tatum scoring 50 points is not going to happen every game. I don't think much of that. Do you?
I don't. I really wish Jaylen Brown was healthy. I keep saying that.
Yeah.
I do think that between Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and Tatum, who's a fine defender, they would have been able to hang a little bit. And if Kemba got hot, then they go from there. And because Boston doesn't have a real functional big man, aside from a couple spurts of Robert Williams, I do think that that was a non-horrible matchup for them as far as that goes this season. But I think it'll be 5. But I'm glad that they took one. I think having one, hey, these 3 guys are trying to win and they lost game on the books is good for just the archives and when you're scouting them and stuff.
Hawks up 2-1 on the Knicks. That you look at the Knicks and you wonder how. I know Julius Randle's not playing well, but you look at the players around him and wonder how he sort of did what he did all year. There's nobody on the team that can shoot. There's there's a few players on that team, but they have no business being the 4 seed. I think the Hawks. I think that the Sixers will 4-1 either one of those teams, but I don't know how the Knicks get out of that series, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they just have to hit shots. I mean, 4 guys on their team had career years from 3, including Randall and RJ Barrett. Mm-hmm. And right now they're just at playoff intensity. The Knicks, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, where the Knicks thrived all season just playing harder than everyone else. Mm-hmm. And then in the playoffs, everybody's playing hard. And so they don't have that advantage of just Tibbsing it to success. And so now that they don't, I still think it'll go 7. If Nerlens is healthy, I think he's just a really good rim protector and makes things happen on the defensive end. And Derrick Rose is playing well. And I think Randall will get better. But Atlanta's good, and they have a bunch of good players. They have a bunch of good offensive players, and Capella anchors them enough to where they don't give up so much on the defensive end. And the Knicks are not a talented offensive team. So I think Atlanta will still pull it out. I would prefer it be New York, not really for any reason other than I wouldn't want to have to watch Trae Young do his little thing during the series. He's a good player, he's a good offensive player, and he does what he has to do, but I can see it being very frustrating. Yeah. And I also just it'd be really fun to watch the Sixers in the Garden in a playoff series. That would be cool. God.
Oh my God. I was just imagining Giannis with the free throws in either the Wells Fargo Center or MSG counting to 10 will be amazing. I think Sixers, Knicks, the crowds in that series, both full, by the way, both full capacity would be crazy. And if the MSG, the Knicks win that series, they'll be eating people in the crowd. They'll be rabid. It'll be insane.
Yeah, they'll have to move Philadelphia to North Carolina if they win that series. They have to move the entire city. I'm really not concerned about either matchup. I like the idea of the Sixers not having to get on a plane until the finals. And
they actually flew to DC.
They did?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Well, a quick trip. They don't have to if they don't have to buckle up, then it doesn't count.
Yeah. Clippers won a game. I still think they're going to lose that series. I watched a good part of that game. It looked like all the other games, to be honest with you. I didn't look any. And they're starting Reggie Jackson. And who's the other guy they started? They start Reggie Jackson, Zubac.
Batum.
Oh, and Nick. But I don't think Batum started the last game.
I think he did.
Mm-hmm. I don't think so.
I love Terrence Mann, who's getting into it. He's great. Paul George was making things happen. I think Kawhi started getting hot a little bit. yeah, I still think Dallas wins that series, even though I think Porzingis sucks.
Marcus Morris started.
Yeah, Marcus
Morris started. Yeah,
Yeah.
he also he did the like gunfire shot to the Clippers bench or the Mavs bench. That seems like a bad idea,
Yeah.
Marcus. But yeah, I don't. The Clippers have good players. They also have a bunch of like C minuses that sort of come together and make each other worse. But occasionally they'll hit shots and make things happen. And I think they covered Luka a little bit better. And Luka's not going to keep hitting so many step backs in Zubac's face. But I think I still would give Dallas the edge.
I haven't seen 1 minute of Portland, Denver. Every game, I don't know if it's true, but it seems like every game starts at 10:30. Like they haven't had any daytime, or I know it's
they played
West
today.
Coast. Oh, they played earlier today.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. They're at 2-2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw A Quiet Place too. I went to the movies with my wife, so I did not see it. I haven't seen any of that fucking series, so I don't know if you have any comment on that.
It's a weird series. I mean, Jokic didn't play well tonight, and Nurkic did, and Damon CJ made things happen, and Norman Powell gets hot. Norman Powell's good for like 2 games a series, just goes nuclear, and always has. Yeah, Denver's getting contributions out of guys that are unexpected. Austin Rivers making things happen. Campazzo's good, but they just let him shoot. They don't. It's not a threat. I think if Jamal Murray was healthy, and even if Will Barton comes back healthy, there's a decent chance they win that series because Portland there's something just seems a little bit off about them. It just doesn't seem that easy for them. It seems like everything counts on like really difficult shots being made. Cove had a nice game. Cove made some things happen tonight. But I think if Barton comes back healthy, then I think Denver will win because Jokic is good. But their lack of guard play is pretty stark for sure.
Well, Game 4 is on Monday. Would love a sweep. If the way the Wizards look tonight was any indication, they would also love a sweep, and that would give the Sixers almost a week off, depending on how the Hawks-Knicks series goes. So
they can go into recess like the Senators in Washington D.C. Another little political joke for everybody.
People love the first one.
Yeah. I'm sure they did. They had to have. They had to have.
Yeah, they were big. They're big on puns, political jokes, that kind of stuff.
That's great.
We'll see you if you're listening on the pod. You can see this on YouTube live after the games, or Twitter live after the games, and soon Twitch. We're gonna put it on Twitch. I was talking to CJ about that earlier. I've never even been on Twitch. I think it's where people watch video games, but the pod will be there. So
we're big gamers over here.
Yeah, huge gamers.
What we're doing.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you on Monday. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, lick face.
That's the end of the audio pod. Someone in the chat earlier asked to bring up a picture of this guy, Deep Fucking Value, who is
oh my God,
very similar.
Oh my God.
This is the GameStop guy, the GameStop investor.
Oh no.
Brought the price up. Very convenient that Mike, you are a businessman, finance guy.
Oh no.
Yeah, the hair, the headband matching.
Hate it.
Oh my God. I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah, little live stream exclusive for.
I can't tell what his face really looks like because he's like making a face, so I can't tell if he actually looks like me or if that's just sort of a weird face that I also do.
Well, it's less about the face itself and more about just like sort of the structure, like, long brown hair, red headband, white guy, medium build,
finance guy.
That's great. Thank you, CJ. I'm enjoying this. What a way to end the night.
Yes. Yes. All right. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night.